I've been telling people for a year that the missing piece for autonomous agents wasn't reasoning, it was a credit card. That piece just landed. Cloudflare and Stripe shipped a protocol where an agent can create a Cloudflare account, start a paid subscription, register a domain, and walk away with an API token to deploy code, end to end. Here's where this fits. For the last 18 months, we've watched agents get better at planning and tool use. But every demo hit the same wall. The moment the agent needed real infrastructure, a human had to stop, open a browser, sign up, paste a credit card, copy an API key back into the prompt. That's not autonomy, that's a person with extra steps. The announcement is from Cloudflare, co-designed with Stripe as part of the launch of Stripe Projects. The pitch is that an agent can now provision a real production stack, account, billing, domain, deploy token, without a human touching a sign-up form. The protocol sits on top of OAuth, OIDC, and payment tokenization. So it's not a new trust model from scratch. It's existing standards composed for a new caller. Worth knowing, Cloudflare is also offering $100,000 in Cloudflare credits to any new startup that incorporates through Stripe Atlas. Separate offer, but it tells you who they're courting. Let me walk through what happens. The protocol has three parts: discovery, authorization, and payment. That's the whole shape. Discovery is how the agent finds out that Cloudflare or any participating platform supports agent provisioning and what it can ask for. Authorization is the OAuth and OIDC layer, where a signed-in user grants the agent permission to act on their behalf, scope to specific operations. Payment is the tokenization piece, where Stripe hands the agent a payment credential it can present to Cloudflare without ever seeing the underlying card. The practical flow looks like this. You're working with an agent inside something like Stripe Projects. You tell it to ship a new service. It discovers Cloudflare as a provider, walks the auth handshake, presents the Stripe-issued payment token, registers a domain, opens a paid subscription, and hands back an API token your code can immediately use. You, the human, accept Cloudflare's terms of service and may be asked to grant permission or add a payment method, but otherwise you're not touching the flow. The Stripe side of this is worth pausing on. Stripe Projects is installed through the Stripe CLI and initialized with Stripe Projects in it. That's the entry point. From a developer's perspective, it looks like a normal CLI tool. You run a command, you get a project scaffolded, and the project knows how to talk to providers that speak this new protocol. The interesting part isn't that Stripe wrote a CLI, it's that Stripe is positioning itself as the identity and payment layer for agent-driven provisioning across the internet. Cloudflare is the first big partner. The protocol is open enough that any platform with signed-in users can integrate the same way Stripe does. So this isn't a Stripe Cloudflare bundle, it's a bid to set the default rails. A few technical things worth flagging if you're going to build on this. First, the auth model is delegated, not autonomous. The agent isn't creating accounts on behalf of nobody. There's a signed-in human somewhere whose authorization scope the agent operates within. That's the right call. Existing access controls, audit logs, and revocation flows still apply. Second, the payment token is scoped. Stripe isn't handing the agent a raw card. It's a tokenized credential the agent can present for a specific class of charges. If the agent goes off the rails and tries to provision 1,000 domains, the payment layer is where that gets caught, not the runtime. Third, and this is the one I want more documentation on, the failure modes. What happens when domain registration succeeds but subscription provisioning fails halfway through? What's the rollback story? The blog post sketches the happy path well. The interesting engineering, as always, lives in the partial failure path. Here's the catch on the broader picture. The protocol is only as useful as the platforms that adopt it. Today it's Cloudflare and Stripe. For this to matter the way the announcement implies, You need at least a database provider, an auth provider, an observability vendor, and probably a model API on the same protocol. Otherwise, the agent provisions a domain and a worker, then hits a wall the moment it needs Postgres. That said, the design is the right shape. OAuth and OIDC are battle tested. Payment tokenization is battle tested. Composing them for a non human caller is a reasonable next step rather than a leap of faith. I'd expect to see 2 or 3 more providers announce support next quarter. And if that doesn't happen, that itself is a signal. Stepping back for a second, the shift here is that agents are becoming economic actors with their own scoped credentials, not just text generators that ask a human to go buy something. That's the line this crosses. Combine it with what we've already seen this year on scheduled agents and triggered pipelines, and the picture is consistent. The default way to run AI is no longer a person babysitting a chat window. It's a delegated process that holds budget, credentials, and infrastructure on your behalf. If you're architecting an agent system right now, the design question is no longer how do I script the sign up? It's what scope and budget do I grant and how do I audit it? Different problem, better problem. The concrete thing to try this week: install the Stripe CLI, run Stripe Projects in it against a throwaway account, and walk through the Cloudflare provisioning flow once by hand. Budget an hour. Even if you don't ship anything on it, you'll have a much sharper sense of what agent as economic actor means in code and where the rough edges are. That's what I've got on this one. If you wire an agent up to provision its own stack and it does something genuinely useful or genuinely cursed, tell me in the comments. I'm collecting examples. See you in the next one.